Welcome to Lynn Cullen Live. Talk radio without the static. Email your questions and comments to lynncullenshow@gmail.com. And now your host, Lynn Cullen.
And good morning to one and all. Oh boy, I did something last night that I've never done. I didn't watch. I have never done that because I'm a news junkie, because I'm a, I don't know, tried and true citizen who believes that you're supposed to attend to these events, whether you find them enjoyable or not. Sort of the same way a lot of folks go to church, right? I fully intended to, and then I realized around 8:00 that I couldn't bear to, and that it was an hour until it began, and then even when it begins, it doesn't begin. And the idea of watching that man, listening to that man, watching the sycophantic cowards that make up what used to be the Republican Party cheering him on, I couldn't do it. And also knowing that whatever it was he was going to say would be a bunch of lies, and an admixture of lies and braggadoccio. So I did not watch. And I thought if anything happens, I'll read about it in the morning. And that's what I've done. I read about it this morning. And I'm very glad that I did not subject myself to what I understand was the longest speech, almost 2 hours. Oh my God in heaven. And I don't know. I haven't, again, watched any clips of it. I can't bear to. I have read stuff. I have seen what Democrats did and or didn't do. And it was all just a show. And it's a show I chose not to attend. That's all I have to say. For those of you who did, God bless you. But I really don't think it's necessary. When we're living in the nightmare hellscape we're living in right now, rules don't apply as they used to. There's no reason to sit and force oneself to take in the blatherings of that vile being. One of the things I saw that did piss me off, I mean, obviously a lot of it would have pissed me off, but this pissed me off. I saw no other, I'm not sure where I saw this, and I'm a little, because I didn't see anybody else in all the reading I did mention it, I'm a little nervous that maybe it didn't happen, but I'm surprised that if it did, it didn't get more attention. And what I'm referring to is that he apparently referenced Senator Elizabeth Warren during the speech, which is odd in and of itself to call out a specific senator. But what I read was that in referencing the senator from Massachusetts, he did not refer to her with her name. He disrespected her, as he does so often to women who hold any power, and called her Pocahontas, which he has done in the past. But did he do it last night? And here's where I got pissed off. I'm not pissed off as much about him saying it. He said it, as I said, many, many times. But it is the second time in the last week that in a public setting, he has disrespected a woman who is there, who is a representative, elected representative of Americans. I'm speaking of the governor of, now I'm forgetting what, Maine or Vermont? Whatever, Maine, I think. And which he did at the governor's conference at the White House. And I was angered by that when there was no reaction from the governors there. Did all of those mostly male governors rise gentlemanly to the defense of this woman? No. I didn't hear a murmur, and it angered me. And I felt that if there was ever a time when the Democrats there, including our governor, should have expressed their unwillingness to be party, to sit quietly while one of their colleagues is treated with such disdain, this was a time. None of them did it. None. And so, if last night he did the same to Elizabeth Warren, and the Democrats just sat there, I understand they were holding up signs here and there. A few got up and left here and there. But if, again, what a lost moment. They should have gotten up and walked out. Any American would understand, any human would understand why. What the hell is wrong with them? It would have been much more effective than Congressman Green and some of the other stuff that was done. Something that showed not disarray, but, a force. I don't know. I'm, if I'm this upset and I didn't watch it, I can't imagine how I'd be feeling today if I had. Incredible. And then I understand he went after Rubio. That's interesting, or not. He went out of his way to humiliate Rubio. And setting him up. Quite obviously setting him up. as a fall guy in the future. He knows from his first term that his secretaries of state don't last. They get a belly full. Marco's been in for what? 5 weeks, 6 weeks? Yeah. So he'll capitulate and capitulate and kiss the ass and kiss the ass, and it won't matter. He'll be thrown to the curb and he'll be humiliated. And none of these guys seem to get it. It's amazing to watch. It's just amazing to watch. Somewhere, and I fear I can't find it, I saw something that, Justin Trudeau said, here it is, yesterday. He said a lot of things, but he said this. Today, the United States launched a trade war against Canada, their closest partner and ally. At the same time, the United States is talking about working positively with Russia and appeasing Vladimir Putin, a lying, murderous dictator. Make it make sense. That right there. What did the Canadians ever do to us? They stood by us. They've been extraordinary neighbors. I mean, most wars, you understand, are neighbors not getting along. How lucky have we been to have Canada sharing such a long border with us? Good people, a good country, a great ally, partner, neighbor. And this repulsive president of ours goes out of his way not only to disrespect, as he does, any women in the vicinity, but to disrespect their elected leadership, to disrespect the entire country, suggesting that we'll annex them, toying with them, because we're bigger and we can. Wow. Any Canadian who's not booing the American national anthem when it's played befuddles me. What the hell did we ever do to Canada? I mean, did they ever do to us? We know what we've done to them. It's unbelievable. Our greatest and most constant ally, our neighbor, our good neighbor. And we've essentially, to use Warren Buffett's word, declared war on them. For nothing, for no reason, for some bullshit reason. Fentanyl coming across their border? Bullshit. It's unbelievable. Cozying up to that bloodthirsty Putin and Russia and going to war with our good neighbor. How can any American tolerate this? How? Taking Russia's side over Ukraine. How can any American who pretends in any way to value the principles that our country has supposedly stood for, how can any American tolerate this? Kicking our friends and hugging our enemies. This is what these vile people have done. This is what all of the folks who voted for Trump gave us. I don't know that I will ever find it in my heart or head to forgive them. What damage they wrought. All the people who voted for him, all those farmers who voted for him, who are now wondering where the hell they're going to sell their food. Wondering what they're going to do with the higher cost of all of the equipment they need on their farm. Where to turn for environmental help, advice, whatever, where the government has always been there for them. All those rural people who voted for him, and he shivs them. All the veterans who voted for him and now are out of jobs because they make up over 30% of all federal workers. Thousands at the Department of Defense alone. Yeah. Can you imagine you voted for the guy and he takes away your paycheck, your insurance, your ability to pay your bills, and kicks you to the curb? So here's what I've been asking people. And I saw David Frum ask the same question today, and I'm glad I'm not the only one. How does this make any sense? How does hurting, truly hurting, the very people who put you into office, how does that work? Everything he's doing now is almost as if it is designed by the enemies of this country to take us down in terms of our stature in the world, our reputation, our economy, our quality of life, our sense of security when we get on an airplane or purchase food or drink our water or take some medicine, all of it destroying all of it. I don't understand how that makes sense. The midterms are a little over a year and a half away. It seems as if he's making sure that Republicans lose their majority. How does that make sense? Oh, yeah, he can't run for another term, so this is his last shot. Why not just go for it? And he doesn't give a damn about anybody else, and he won't care about legality, so he'll have the power and he'll use it. And yet, he sought this position not just for the power, he sought it to stay out of jail, remember? Well, nothing's changing about that. So why would somebody who values his own security so much, his own safety, why would he toy with it by burning as many bridges as he's burning? It doesn't seem to make sense. Unless, and here's the thing, that I have not wanted to go in this direction, but it's hard not to. Unless he knows something. Sort of like maybe he even knew something before he got elected this time around. Unless he knows the fix is in. We've seen as he's disabled, right? And he's just getting started, but he's got all the people he needs at all of the law enforcement apparatuses available to him. He owns the FBI. He owns the Justice Department. Their fealty is not to the Constitution, it is to him. He's gotten rid of the head of the Joint Chiefs. He will install somebody who will kowtow to him. He's gotten rid of anyone he thinks won't be there for him. He is the commander-in-chief. He's got Elon with his fingers on all of the technological infrastructure of our country. He's pulled away the defenses we have built in so that Russia and other countries cannot interfere in our elections. He has done all of this in the last 6 weeks. Oh, I can't, I know now. I read them in the Atlantic today. I have been wondering, and I hate going here because it makes me sound like a conspiracy theorist, right? But knowing the people we are dealing with, not to go there seems naive. So, Frum says he's governing without the slightest concession to majority opinion. Think of that. If you want to win an election or a re-election, or you want your party to stay in power, that doesn't make a lot of sense. He's governing without the slightest concession to majority opinion, even to a majority sense of decency, right? He is making political choices that would normally seem to deliver to the opposition, the Democrats, a big majority in the House after the midterms. I mean, toying with people's health insurance, their Social Security, the prices they pay, all of it going up, all of it going way up. Not seeing to the promises he had made to them. And Frum says, is he delusional? Is he reckless? Or is this a signal that the man who tried to overturn the election of 2020 has another scheme in mind for the 2026 midterms? Frum said it. He asked the question. Is it possible? Where I would normally bat that away, I can't now because of what he's done to disable so many of the security that we used to be able to point to. He goes on to say, Trump is keenly alert to his legal danger, meaning once he's out of power, he's going to jail. Trump is keenly alert to his legal danger. He is deeply committed to keeping power by any means necessary. God knows we know that. But he also seems to be sleepwalking toward a stinging political loss that will expose him to all kinds of risk. He is not trying to expand his coalition to win any votes he doesn't already have. In fact, he seems to be doing the exact opposite, to make many people who voted for him regret it as they wonder how to pay the bills. So Frum says, so what is his plan to preserve his immunity and his impunity? There must be a plan. He finishes with this. Trump's behavior in 2021 showed there are no limits to what he will do to keep power. What will 2026 show? Yeah, really. Yeah, Gigi, I saw that. The Supreme Court has, in a split decision, said that he cannot impound and freeze all this foreign aid. Well, we'll see. Again, the Supreme Court does not have an army. We'll see. Um, it's just one. I'm sorry, guys. I'm sorry. Just one thing after another, isn't it? So the Canadians. The head of Ontario, this Doug Ford, he was a MAGA-like guy, wasn't he? I know his brother was, and his brother, what happened? Something bad happened. Turned out to be a true crook or something. I forget. And then he takes over. Uh, he is pissed. I love it. He says, well, he's already ordered the removal of all American-made liquor from they've got state stores, from the alcohol distributors, and he's canceled Ontario's contract with Musk's Starlink. That's good. But do you know he could turn the lights off in Michigan? Uh-huh. And he's reminded us of that. Instead, he's just threatened to impose a 25% surcharge on the electricity that is exported from Canada, Ontario, excuse me, to Michigan, to Minnesota, to New York State. Biting the hand that turns on our lights. Analysts at the investment bank Barclays reported yesterday that the tariffs that Trump has imposed could wipe out effectively all profits for General Motors, Ford, and Stellantis. And believe me, that ain't the whole story. Gas prices in the Northeast could go up as much as 40 cents a gallon in a few weeks. Mm. Well, that's not real Republican territory, but 40 cents a gallon by mid-March, because the Northeast receives a substantial portion of its gas and diesel from Canada. What is the idea behind this attack on our good neighbor and trading partner, other than him being, well, as Margaret keeps saying, a Russian agent? I don't even, again, I can't come up with anything. And guys, here in Pittsburgh, man, when I came to Pittsburgh, it was the end of 1980, and I came, and Pittsburgh was trying to remember exactly, was it the eighth largest television market? Anyway, it was a huge, huge step up from the little teeny market I was coming from in Madison, Wisconsin. And from the moment I stepped into the town, the city began to shrink. It actually lost almost half its population. Market size, Pittsburgh isn't even in the top 20 anymore. I came to this huge city that's steel built, and I came as it collapsed and shriveled. And the first stories I covered were all of these awful, awful stories about people and the impact on families and people of these good jobs going away. The economy here just tanking. The misery I cataloged. And so the amazing story about Pittsburgh is that in the ensuing 40 some years, Pittsburgh refused to die. It took its smaller self and remade itself. No longer steel, but brains, eds, and meds. And so now our biggest employers are the universities here, the medical institutions here. It's what drives much of whatever growth we have enjoyed. And guess what? Trump has begun the destruction of that. Talk to anybody at the University of Pittsburgh, at CMU, at UPMC. Talk to anybody here who now are the drivers of this economy, and they will tell you they are running scared. Trump and Musk have pulled all the money out and threatened to pull more. The scale of it is extraordinary. The cuts to the National Institutes of Health, which a lot of that money comes here to Pittsburgh. The research that is underwritten by the NIH is what fuels our economy now. I talk to friends in positions at Pitt, and there is terror there. There is a sense that they don't even know how to even create a budget anymore. And the same is true at Carnegie Mellon. At the University of Pittsburgh, where life-saving research is being done, funneled by funds, funneled through NIH and the National Science Foundation, both of which are taking huge, huge hits. Trials, clinical trials that if interrupted, and they're being interrupted, could be jeopardized. You can't interrupt certain trials. It's over then. Trials that may have been going on for years, lives literally at risk. Scientific discoveries that will not be made. And it's not just here. Morehouse College, Atlanta, the medical school's president and CEO said that if the cuts go through, he is going to lay off a huge percent of his research and clinical staff, freeze hiring, rescind any offers made to any new scientists, researchers coming in. Beth Israel Deaconess Medical Center in Boston said they're going to be forced to terminate leases for the laboratories that they rely on, and they're going to have to lay off hundreds of employees. Tulane in New Orleans predicted cuts to faculty, postdoctoral research, and staff. The University of Pittsburgh said that the cut would amount to a loss of over $168 million, which will halt clinical trials, disrupt others, and force huge layoffs. Now, yes, judges are stepping in. A judge last month put a temporary block on Trump's orders for these cuts at NIH that support all the overhead costs so that all of this work can go on. But if you ask any of these universities, do they see the money coming? Do they think it might come? It doesn't, it hasn't. Again, judges can say whatever they want. The money ain't showing up. The uncertainty that these universities now are facing, that this is just the beginning, has them, all they're doing now is scrambling around trying to create contingency plans in an environment in which they literally don't, they're being, it's as if Trump has declared war on them as well. They don't know. They are in defensive crouches trying to figure out how to maintain their institutions. The reality is that budgets are going to be just destroyed, and the impact on scientific research, this is one of the things this country has always led on, and we should have taken such pride in. It's unbelievable. I have a quote here from the former head of MIT. He says, we talk a lot about being in this intense competition with China for science and technology. How are we supposed to compete? Again, it's almost as if this administration is actively working against us, right? The local media outlet Public Source interviewed a former staffer at the National Science Foundation whose job has been to manage grants to Carnegie Mellon. His job was, because he's lost it, Musk took his job and 167 others at the National Science Foundation, which means that researchers here at CMU have lost their liaisons at the agency. And the guy who lost his job said this to the reporter: the National Science Foundation can exist on paper, but if there are no human beings in the building who can organize the panels that review these grants, who can read the proposals, who can make funding recommendations and decisions, then functionally, the National Science Foundation doesn't exist. Yeah. Eds and meds, folks. That's what Pittsburgh relies on now. And Donald Trump and Elon Musk have taken a buzzsaw. It's mind-blowing. One of the few things I saw that, made me happy was the action taken by this Norwegian company. I don't know if you've heard about it. It's a fuel supplier. It's a fuel company in Norway. And a few days ago, I'm not sure exactly when, um, it announced that it will no longer fuel the ships that come in from the United States, military ships. They have always come into Norwegian ports, and they are refueled in Norwegian ports by Haltbach Bunkers. That's the fuel supply company. And it said, ain't going to do it. In a strongly worded statement, the company criticized a televised event involving Donald Trump and J.D. Vance. That would be the Zelensky horror. And referred to it as the biggest shit show ever presented on live television. And the president of this fuel company went on to praise President Zelensky for his restraint, declaring that the spectacle made us sick, and said, we will no longer fuel American ships. We're making friends left, right, and center, aren't we? It's wonderful. We're about to, we're finding out what it's like to be a pariah nation. Who would want this? Except our enemies. Who would want this? Speaking of pariah, normally who gives a damn, but there's this violinist. He's one of the great violinists. His name is Christian Tetzlaff. He's German. He, for decades, has toured in the United States and all over the world. He recently returned home to Germany after a performance in Chicago. And he was distraught. The concert went very well attended, the audience, standing ovations, of course. But he was distraught by what he saw happening here. And he's quoted as saying, I felt like a child watching a horror film. I can understand that. He said, when I come to the US, I pay 32% taxes to the United States on every concert I play. And the fact that that money now goes to a state that is doing horrible things, I can't contribute. I have to take my money and go home. he canceled an 8-city tour, including a stop at Carnegie Hall, and said he was unlikely to perform again in the United States until the government changes. He said the only way he would come back is if he would perform a benefit concert here for Ukraine. That he would do. You know, you think of when we used to be the country we were, how we had this kind of moral authority where our artists would refuse to play in countries that were pariahs, right? It was and always and remains a way for performers and artists to protest wars or injustice or discrimination. And we've been the ones doing the protesting. And now we're on the other side, as we are in so many things. In just 6 weeks, Trump has put us on the other side, snugly cuddling with Vladimir Putin, Kim Jong-un, and going to war with our friends, our allies, and our neighbors, who that is not, I am sure, what a lot of the people who, for whatever deranged reason, voted for this crowd, whatever it was they thought. Something I saw today too. I mean, it just keeps coming. You can't keep up with it. So they're selling off real estate that the federal government owns, buildings, and they're going to pocket the money. But here's the thing: a lot of those buildings are in D.C. So they've put them all on the auction block, and anyone who knows real estate knows that's stupid. You put all of them on at the same time in not a good real estate market, you're going to get pennies on the dollar. And when you see what they're saying is for sale now at bargain basement prices for some of their billionaire buddies to scarf up, I suppose. It's mind-blowing. The list of buildings this is again just the beginning. The list of buildings included some of the government's largest and best known buildings. As far as I know, they're not selling the Capitol yet, but they've got the Justice Department's Pennsylvania Avenue headquarters on the list. They got the Social Security Administration's Cohen Building on Independence Avenue on the list, Agriculture Department building, the U.S. Census Bureau headquarters, along with 82 other buildings in Maryland. I said yesterday they're selling off Social Security field offices left, right, and center. That one that I've gone to in East Liberty, for all I know, is on the block right now, too. And you know, I couldn't help but think, wait a minute. These are the guys that told all of the workers who were still standing, who still had jobs, that they had to go back to their offices. They couldn't work from home, right? So on the one hand, you tell them they have to return to the office, and on the other hand, you're selling the office out from under them. I don't know. I don't. All righty. So, what was the other thing? I'm sorry. I see my time is, the clock's ticking down here, and I had something else, and now I can't put my hand on it. You see how these threats work. So some Republican son of a bitch congressman put together a bill. He sits on like the transportation committee that says that if the Black Lives Matter mural that was put up during the Black Lives Matter moment, that big one that went down an entire street, if that is not painted over, millions upon millions of dollars in transportation funding for the District of Columbia will not be coming. And so the mayor of the District of Columbia has announced that there will be a new mural put up. So she's covering it up because she needs the funding. And this is what happens when the bullies control all the money. They can extort, they can bully boy their way into anything. And any person in a position of being the mayor of a targeted city must make a calculation. Can I make a stand here? Or would that be not helpful? They're having to figure out which battles to fight. Okay, we'll paint over Black Lives Matter so that I can, get certain infrastructure stuff done that has to be done. But these sons of bitches do not miss any opportunity to use their power, to get their way, to cause people to kowtow, bend the knee. Bullies. All right, guys, that's it. Sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry for all of us. But talk at you tomorrow, okay?
Lynn Cullen Live, Monday through Thursday from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. and archived at pghcitypaper.com. The opinions expressed on Lynn Cullen Live are those of the host and do not necessarily reflect the viewpoints of Pittsburgh City Paper or its advertisers.